Hello, it's Rob here, touchscaper developer with a new touchscaper tips. And sorry there haven't been any of these videos for a little while. I've been kind of busy on this latest update, which I'm going to take you through the main feature in that update, which is MIDI CCs, or continuous controllers as they're often referred to. And just a heads up actually on updates, if you update it to 151 today, which is Thursday, there's a 152 hotfix in the pipeline, and that fixes an issue relating to Ableton Link. So if you've been having problems with stuttering sequencer steps in Ableton Link, that's coming in 152. Okay, just to let you know. But we're going to look at MIDI CCs in this update. Now, you may have noticed that the most obvious changes, we've got these two rows of controllers down the side. So what I thought I'd do is just run through basically setting up a few controllers from scratch, and then it's just a case of adding as many as you want, really. So let's dive in. I've got a completely empty scene at the moment, I think. Yep, so nothing in that. So I think what we'll do is set up a simple sequence. This is probably like the easiest way to get into this, because it means you can have a sequence running and then as you tweak the CC settings, you have a kind of a nice feedback loop on the changes that you're making. So let's get that set up, and I'm going to use Model 15. Model 15 is already on Deep Seek bass, which is one of my fave patches. Use that quite a lot. Let's get these guys on the same tempo, and let's put a basic pattern in. I don't know, boom, something like that. Schoolboy error. Yeah, let's actually hook it up via MIDI. So we go into MIDI connections. We're using Sequencer Synth A, Model 15 and Omni. That's all cool. So that is now muted. So we should hear Model 15 now. That sounds more like it. Let's just twiddle that to be root. So these should be all root notes now. Okay, cool. So that's up and running. Not the most exciting of bass lines, but we're going to add some excitement through via the power of MIDI CCs. So one of the most common things that I'm sure that if you're anything like me, that you like to do during a performance, or even when you're recording, just to add some additional color, is to tweak the cutoff frequency of the filter. So let's get that running again. So this kind of thing. Yeah. So wouldn't it be nice if we could do that from touchscaper without having to do all this to and fro business, especially if you're on an iPad Pro and you've got this kind of little bar down here which doesn't always respond immediately for some apps. Looking at no one in particular, Moog. Anyway, so wouldn't it be great if we could twiddle that filter cutoff from touchscaper? Well, now you can. And how do you do that? Okay, well, probably the first thing to do is to, depending on what app you're using, you need to check what is mapped to a CC. Sometimes there might be nothing mapped. Sometimes you'll have some basic defaults. So that will usually be somewhere in some kind of settings under a MIDI tab or page or whatever, and the thing you're looking for is map CCs. That generally presents this kind of overlay, and it will show you what controls, if any, are already mapped. So the way that, apologies if you kind of know, you probably know more about MIDI than I do, but MIDI CCs is basically, it's a way of using a MIDI message to change a controller. And you do that by identifying the controller you want to target with a number. That's generally well, in fact it is, it's not generally, it's a number between 1 and 128 or 0 and 127, depending on where you start counting from. The joys of computer science, zero-based counting and all that jazz. So anyway, hopefully you can see that already we have 74 mapped to the cutoff frequency of the filter, 71 on the regen or resonance as it's more commonly known, and a quick scroll down suggests that nothing else is mapped right now. Okay, so we can play with these for now. So if you remember those numbers, 74, that's the thing I was talking about, the little bar there. If anything, it gets slightly more irritating the more times you have to drag it. First world problems or what? Right. Okay, let's crack on and do the mapping. So how do you do that? Okay, so if you go into MIDI generally, go into settings, there's a new button here which brings up the controller map view, and let's bring it up. Okay, so we can close that guy behind, and let's take a customary sip of our lemon and ginger tea. Okay, so these guys down the side correspond to these guys in the main view. So sadly in monochrome mode you might not be able to tell which one is active, but it's a lot clearer when you run one of the color themes. So you'll just have to take my word for it. We're currently targeting this one top left, so it's going to be this guy. You might be able to just about see that these are dimmed, which corresponds to the fact that they are not assigned. So just running through this as a bit of an overview, we've got 5 slots, a bit like the drum maps. You can rename these if you want to something meaningful, and everything else we'll just go through in a hopefully logical sequence. So the first thing to do is to tell touchscaper which source we are targeting. And if you see this button here, if you tap it, it will cycle through. Probably should be a pick list, but I was a bit busy that day. So hopefully it's not too much of a chore to target the guy that we want. In this case, we want sequencer synth A, because that is what we have model 15 set up to receive messages from. Yeah. And speaking of logical value, ignore these guys in the middle for now. Next thing we want to do is assign a CC number. Remember, we were talking about these numbers. So if we tap that guy, this brings up a MIDI CC list. Now, these little descriptions in here, they're not really they're supposed to be standard, but not everyone, excuse me, follows the standards. They're there, sometimes they'll be helpful, sometimes they'll just be plain confusing. But you may recall that when we looked at Model 15, we saw that filter cutoff was assigned to CC number 74. So let's scroll down to 74, And lo and behold, that is indeed filter cutoff. So that is a bit of a standard. CC74 is pretty much always filter cutoff. If it's not in any app, that's probably going to kind of irritate people. And there's a few other things that are kind of standard. So anyway, this is the guy that we want for now. So we're going to use this CC. Unassign would unassign it if it was already assigned. So let's use that. Hopefully you can tell that this guy now is no longer dimmed out. And we can twiddle it. And the way that you twiddle this is you just tap down. I like to move away so I can see what's going on. And you see there's a little label above it. It says Sequencer Synth A, CC number 74, filter cutoff. And when you move down, the rotary rotates anti-clockwise and rotate up. So that's how you twiddle it. So let's twiddle with the sequencer running. And notice we can't hear anything or can barely hear it. That's because our filter now, cutoff frequency is set really low. So let's bring it up. Pretty cool. I hope you agree. Okay, so that's a lot of fun. Let's assign the second one down. Let's assign that. Again, we want to target Sequencer Synth A. And let's assign that to 71, which you may recall was the filter resonance or regen, as Model 15 calls it. So we've got that about halfway. Let's set this to be about halfway too. So this, remember, is the filter cutoff frequency, and this guy is resonance. So we got that thing. I'm sure you're no stranger to the filter going into self-oscillating mode, which sometimes you might like. Sometimes you might not want that to happen. So there's a way that you can kind of set up your controller map to kind of, let's see if I can demo this. If we run it, and go to, if you hear that, to my ear, there's a kind of a sweet spot around about this range. If I go up to about 8, it gets, I'm not so keen on that, but you might be, you know, it's up to you. So I think the sweet spot is kind of somewhere between 7 and 3, yeah? So what you can do is basically say, well, the default value for this guy, the filter resonance, I'm going to say it should be about halfway, but I'm going to reduce the range to about that. So that means even though you've got the full rotational angle of this controller here, you're actually only changing it over a reduced range. And I haven't put any numbers on here. It's really just a case of get the thing running. See, I can hear that. It's having an effect, but maybe not as big an effect as I'd like it. So let's take the range up. You hear it's having more of an effect now because it's sweeping over a bigger range. So let's bring it up a bit more. Now we're getting whistles. So let's bring it back down again. I quite like that, and then if we use it in conjunction with the filter cutoff, I quite like that. I'm going to do the similar thing for the cutoff frequency I'm actually going to bring the default value back down a little bit and reduce the range just a smidge. So now the default value is going to kind of think of this as your sort of center value, and then the range is how much you're sweeping it from that center value either side, if you see what I mean. So if you're in the middle, and in the middle you're sweeping it max either side. If you bring it down here, that's your sort of center value, and then you're sweeping it kind of by that much either side. So you might not get it all the way open, if you see what I mean. So if I'm to turn that all the way up and then go to you see it's only on, hopefully you can see it's only on about like nearly 3. It's not all the way up. If I bring this all the way down, you see it's pretty much closed, but not quite. Little comment actually on this. You've noticed as I change touchscaper controller value, the app that we're targeting is updating to reflect that. It doesn't work the other way. Now that might be a disappointment to some of you, I know. Why does it not do that? Well, it's a bit complicated, and what I'm trying to do is kind of reduce the MIDI traffic that's going on, because we've got 10 of these guys on the app, and not only have we got 10 of these, we could effectively be targeting multiple destinations on the receiving side of things. So basically I've decided that the main reason you want to do this is to stay within touchscaper and send MIDI CC messages out. I right now I don't see much value in tweaking the control on the target app and then having touchscaper update to reflect that, because at the end of the day, this isn't a MIDI controller app. You want to do that sort of thing. There are dedicated MIDI controller apps out there. I hope that's an acceptable excuse, because it's very quickly starting to sound like an excuse. But that's the way it currently is right now. So just be aware of that. The other thing, of course, is if you're controlling hardware, you unless it's digitally controlled, you can't determine where the knob is on an analog synth, so it doesn't work with hardware anyway. Okay, so moving swiftly on, we've got our filter cutoff set up, and we've got our resonance set up. I think these are now operating over quite nice ranges. Okay, so what else can you do? Well, let's say we're happy with this for now, so we're going to play with these two guys for a little while. One of the things you can do is you can automate these, and I shouldn't have dismissed that settings view because we didn't cover that. So we've done default value and range, automation speed. Now we've got some options here. These are currently not tempo synced or anything, but you can think of them as kind of LFOs. And these are pretty much suggestions as to the kind of LFO speed, and what will happen under the hood is touchscaper will kind of randomly calculate an animation speed that sort of falls into some kind of parameters. We've got both of these guys set to medium. Let's set the resonance to slow. So how do you get that going? Well, you may have noticed that when I touch down on a controller, this little up-down arrow appears. So what you do is, while holding down one or more controllers actually, you just tap this guy and off it goes. So you see this is now moving very slowly, and then I can do it with the cutoff, and you hopefully see this one is now moving a bit faster. And of course, the nice thing is if we set our sequence going again, so at the moment resonance is maxed out, but here it comes back down again. So you get this kind of nice sense of a sort of movement, and it's the kind of thing that you might do if you were doing a live set. You'd gradually sweep the filter or whatever, and the cutoff, so you get this kind of quite cool. Okay, now to stop these, if you want to stop them, all you do is you tap on the one you want to stop, and ooh, that's odd. So this is a funny. I think this might be a kind of a more of an iPad than an app issue. Let's just verify that. See if we can reproduce it. So the idea, anyway, is you grab the one you want to release, and then you tap the up down. So you basically toggle these guys. So to get rid of this one, and it's gone, this one. Now this is what I was talking about. You actually see that none of the buttons now are active. So this is why I think that it might be a touch bug that is either iPad related. See, you should be able to multi-touch. So I think there's something funny going on there. I will dig into that, but anyway, most of the time it works. You want to turn it back on again. So you've got both these going and you want to quickly turn both off, then you just double tap. Yeah? So turn it on, double tap. Or you can even, let's grab two, turn them on, double tap, turns both off. Yep. Okay, cool. There's something else actually that I could show you that I haven't shown you yet, which is more kind of on the app side, really. Let's go through the process in case you're not familiar with it. Go into this guy again, MIDI map CCs. Something else that you sometimes, I mean, these guys are your classic things that people like to tweak. So it's probably why they're pre-mapped already. But let's do something else a bit funky. One of the things I quite like to do is change the decay time, especially for stuff like bass lines. So I happen to know that we've got our envelopes here. I'm going to do something that might not be obvious as a kind of like a tip thing. So I think when you're in this MIDI map, you just double tap. Yeah. So I'm going to assign that to 102, which from memory, I think that is free. But here's the twist. I'm going to assign that both envelope decays. Just check I've done the right one. Yeah, decay. So I've assigned both envelope decays to 102. Yeah. So let's go back to yeah. Let's go back. Oh, something else I didn't mention as well. We're back in touchscaper, so we're gonna control that. Remember that number 102. A shortcut to open the controller configs. Once you've already got some config, if you hold down and tap the MIDI button, that brings up the controller maps quickly instead of having to burrow through 3 levels of views and subviews. So let's assign that. Remember, we want to be sequence of synth A, and we want 102, which is currently undefined. So there is no standard for controller 102, but we're going to use that guy. And just for kicks, we'll set that to fast. let's set these to midway so we can hear what's going on, and set our sequencer going, and we'll twiddle with this guy, which is now mapped to 102. Okay. Pretty cool. But notice we're getting that thing where we're probably twiddling it over too much of a range, because we're getting kind of clicks because we're setting the decay time really, really short. So let's have the default value quite low, and let's have the range quite small. See how that sounds. It's kind of okay. Maybe if we take the range up a bit. I quite like that. Let's try animating it. Turn the other guys on as well. Get rid of that for now. If we go back to model 15, we should be able to see these moving. Hopefully you can. We're waiting for the animation to come back round. We can see the decay times moving. Here's the filter opening up. See that moving? Blink and you miss it. Our decay is opening up here to about 2 seconds. Coming back down to about 70 milliseconds or so. It's just the thrill and excitement of waiting for the filter to close again. Here it goes. Not quite as boring as watching paint dry, but it's kind of fun to see that working, I think. And then we stop them, we just... And there you have it. Okay, so that is pretty much it. I can't think that I've missed anything out. Let me know in the comments section of this video if I have. Obviously I'm just running Model 15 standalone here, but if this was in an AUM session, it's pretty much the same deal. And similarly, if you're controlling hardware, it's, you know, you just target your MIDI interface in the destinations. You will probably have to read your user guide for the MIDI spec for the particular bit of kit in question. It's usually a big table right at the end of the user guide that says, you know, what MIDI CC numbers you have to use to control different parameters, and it varies from one bit of kit to the other. What else have I not mentioned? MIDI channels it will use whatever you've set up here, and basically you notice there's no mention of whether this is Model 15 or not. It's basically whatever you've got sequencer synth A assigned to. So that means that potentially you could have reusable controller maps if you wanted to do like all the standard ones like filter cutoff, frequency and stuff like that. It doesn't matter what you've got that pointed to. It's probably a good bet that 74 and 71 are going to will work just fine. So yeah, I think that's it. Sorry about the 151 hiccup, but 152 will hopefully address the Ableton link issue. I was in a bit of a panic trying to fix that this morning, so that is awaiting review. Anyway, I'm well into rambling territory now, so I hope you found this video useful. I hope you enjoy twiddling your MIDI CC controllers. It's a lot of fun, especially when you have 10 going. And of course, you know, there's no reason why you can't have any of these going to different apps as well. and then but I thought I'd just show you with one app, because you don't want to see me set up 4 different apps, because it's essentially the same process. You just tap through. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So I think that's us done with this one, and hope you're all safe and well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the messages. Especially thanks to a few of the guys recently have given me heads up on bugs and issues, which is a real big help, because I'm just one guy and I can't. I'm only human. I make mistakes, and but so thanks for giving me heads up. That's really, really much appreciated. And I will see you on the next video. Cheers for now. Bye bye.